With Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, dominating the box office and still raking in the big bucks, Karen and I decided it would be a good opportunity to rank the Star Wars movies, all of the live-action, theatrically released Star Wars movies, from worst to best.
So before we give you our list, we want to know how you would rank the Star Wars movies. So put your list in the comment section below.
And just as a disclaimer, these are Star Wars movies, so even though some of them might be our least favorite, we still love them because they're Star Wars movies.
Now, Mike and I get into very heated debates about what the worst Star Wars film is, and we keep going back and forth, as I'm sure many of our viewers do as well. My number 9 and least favorite Star Wars film is definitely Episode 2, The Attack of the Clones. I did not feel like this was very good in terms of plot, character development, dialogue, none of it. I felt like a lot of it was just very, very overly dramatic in a bad way. It was just like more of a soap opera than any of the other Star Wars movies. It was all basically the love story between Anakin and Padme, which wasn't really a love story. It was a soap opera with everything filled in, and there were awkward moments, and there was nothing to really redeem this movie. There were some okay parts with the Geonosian battle scene with the 3 creatures. I thought that was pretty cool. In terms of even costuming was awful. There wasn't a good bad guy, and all of the good guys just were letdowns. It was like, I don't enjoy watching any of them. Obi-Wan Kenobi, it was his worst performance in any of the Star Wars films. I did not like him in this one at all. And Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen, oh my gosh, it was disgusting watching them. I just couldn't get past it, even with the cool... I will give Episode 2, it has a good, really good Jedi scene where all of the Jedi come together. I think that was a really good idea. It was executed fairly well, but then they ruin it completely with the C-3PO nonsense, with the Geonosian, like, conveyor belt thing that I have no clue why you would even have that in there. It's dumb. It wasn't done well at all.
That was added
and
after
then
the
to
fact.
have, like, I don't know if they were trying to redeem Boba Fett's death from the old ones, but Jango Fett, you were just like, what? and Count Dooku just wasn't a good bad guy. And I just don't feel like there was anything really to, like, you know? The only good thing I can say is Yoda looked really good in this one compared to the first one. But all of that to say, the second one is definitely my least favorite.
Well, I disagree, because at number 9, my least favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This one, need I say more than Jar Jar Binks?
Yes.
Maybe Kid Anakin Skywalker? Both of those characters destroy the movie. Jar Jar Binks single-handedly destroys the movie, but with the addition of Kid Anakin, it's just really bad acting. Natalie Portman's probably one of her worst performances. Keira Knightley's in it. You know, she's okay. She plays Natalie Portman pretty much. As far as I remember, Liam Neeson was not happy with this movie. There are just so many stupid things in this movie. The whole scene with the fish trying to go after the little pod in the river, ocean, whatever it is, that was stupid. Puppet Yoda, he looked like a frog. And this one, it's hard to say it because it's not really fair, because it did come out in 1999, but it did have the worst CGI of all the prequels, and that is kind of an unfair comparison. However, I do have to say Episode 1 has the best lightsaber battle of any Star Wars movie, and that does help the movie, and it has a decent space battle, but it tries to be Return of the Jedi too much, and it fails on most fronts, except for the lightsaber battle. Those reasons are unfortunately why it is my least favorite Star Wars movie.
This disagreement between Mike and I has sparked some very, very heated discussions in our family and amongst just us two, and we have searched high and low for who's right and who's wrong, and we love it. So we're also going to be doing in the future, hopefully soon, a debate video for which is the absolute worst Star Wars, and we're going to go back and forth. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. And
there's a very fine line drawn between the family about who's right and who's wrong.
It's a house divided.
About episode 1 or episode 2 being the worst. And obviously I'm on the right side.
Nope. You're on the dark side with no cookies.
At least we have brownies.
So now I'll agree with Mike in the fact that episode 1 is one of the worst. It's not the worst, but it does come in at my number 8 for The Phantom Menace. Jar Jar Binks was awful. Some of the CGI was awful. I really liked the pod race scene.
Yes, that was cool.
Anakin, it depends on the mood I'm in when I'm watching him, whether I like him or not. Qui-Gon Jinn is an amazing character, and I feel like of a lot of the Star Wars deaths, his was probably the most honorable, because Darth Maul is such a really, really good bad guy.
And he doesn't disappear when he gets hit by a lightsaber.
Yes. So I agree with you. Jar Jar Binks it made this movie really hard to watch. Of course, nostalgia did play a role in my ranking just because it was the first one that came out. I was 9 when this movie came out. I was like, wow, this is sweet. It's a Star Wars movie, and there was a lot of good lightsaber battles, and I liked the newer type of ships and the newer type of technology that they wanted to put in there. I don't think it quite fit in with the timeline of the overall Star Wars chronology, but it was still cool to see all the slick ships and the whatever those bubble bombs are from the Gungan battle, and I really loved the underwater city. Was amazing to me. That was like, oh, I like that a lot. So that's my number 8. So let's talk about your number 8.
Well, my number 8 is the second worst Star Wars movie, and that is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This one, I think it takes Episode 1, it takes what Episode 1 did, and it makes it better. It corrects some of the mistakes. It gives you much less of Jar Jar. Anakin is less annoying in the sense that he's not super just annoying. He's just creepy. And that is unfortunate for this movie because there's less of him being annoying and just being like, oh my gosh, the Jedi are here and this is pod racing and all that stuff. Yes, the relationship is awkward between Anakin and Padme, but you get one of the best theme songs of any Star Wars movie, and that is the love theme song between Anakin and Padme. I love that song. It's beautiful. You also get to see the beginning of the Clone Wars, which is, that battle scene is incredible, especially at the beginning, like you said, in that whole Geonosian arena. That was awesome. The beginning of it with the monsters was a little off, but once those Jedi show up and you see the first purple lightsaber from Mace Windu, and you finally see Yoda with a lightsaber fighting, that was awesome. And even the new ships flying around, shooting all that stuff, that was so cool. And I think that Jango Fett was a great redemption for the Boba Fett character because they gave him so much more to do. He fights a Jedi, a highly trained Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, arguably one of the more powerful Jedis of all time, and he beats him. And then they fly through that asteroid field, which is so cool with those sonic charges. That was an incredible scene. There's just so many cool things in this movie over The Phantom Menace. But, again, when people think of this movie and they think it's the worst one, they only really focus on one aspect, and in particular one scene, and that is what people describe as the tick riding scene, when Anakin's surfing on that tick, that giant tick creature on Naboo. It is an awful scene, and most of the scenes revolving them are pretty bad. But the movie is bigger than that. And it's more about the mystery of Obi-Wan trying to figure out what's going on and who's trying to kill Padme. That's how I see it. And that's why I like it better than Phantom Menace.
So my number 7 Star Wars film, unfortunately, is Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I was just very, very disappointed with this movie. And as hard as I tried not to go into it with expectations, it just fell flat on its face with all of the really ridiculousness of it. I did not understand Luke Skywalker's character. I didn't understand his development between when you see him last in Episode 6 to now. I don't understand the transformation he took, and that was probably one of the most disappointing things about it. Plus, all of the really, really cool new characters that they developed in Episode 7, I felt like they were just not consistent. Rey was just kind of like, she was so flat, and I didn't understand her motivations. I didn't understand why she was fighting with Luke potentially on the island. It just didn't quite make sense to me. Chewie kind of got lost, even though he's one of the last remaining original characters. Princess Leia was awful. And everything just like, it was just, I'm sorry, Carrie Fisher, rest in peace, but I just was not happy with that at all. Poe Dameron fell flat on his face. They could have done so much with him in this as a pilot, and it could have been so cool, and I just didn't feel like that. And Finn and Rose, what the heck was that? Like, I don't know what it is with the love stories in Star Wars, but they just can't do it. And I was confused because in the first one, you kind of think Finn has a crush on Rey. Maybe that'll go somewhere. Nope. This one it completely cut off, and Rose kisses him at the end when she saves his life. Rose's character was just plain annoying. I did not like her look. I did not like the way she talked. I didn't understand why she was even in this movie. I could keep going on and on and on and on and on about this. There was some good parts. I enjoyed the fact that you saw Force Ghost Yoda. His look was a little off, but I'm willing to just let that go for a little bit because he's back. And honestly, I really liked the story twist with Kylo Ren and Rey, with their bridge between, the Force bridge between the two of them. I thought that was very interesting because you see a little bit of it in the earlier episodes, original, between Luke and Leia. So you kind of think maybe they're related a little more than you might think. At least we suspect that. But all of the bad stuff to say, I loved Kylo Ren in this. Mm-hmm. He was like amazing. I loved his character the most, and I think they can do so much with him now too. And I still think he still has that, even though that loose end was not tied up, you can still do a lot with his character because he still could potentially go to he just seems to have this back and forth complexity about him that I just absolutely love. Not to mention, Adam Driver was just completely amazing. His performance in this, it could potentially just, he's the reason I really liked it, besides all of the other weirdness happening. So I could keep going, but I won't. I'll stop there.
My number 7 is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This was the best of the prequel trilogy, but that's really not saying that much because the other two weren't that great. We agree on that. But Episode 3 did take the prequels into a better direction, even more so than Episode 2, because it started to bridge the gap. I don't think it bridged the gap between the prequels and the original trilogy enough. The problem is the whole prequel trilogy was showing civilization at the height of its power, and the original trilogy is like civilization is crumbling. That's why everything looks dirty and everything is clean in the prequels. And they didn't quite explain why all that happened. But it was still amazing to see Anakin become Darth Vader. I still wish that it would played out a different way, but seeing that mask go on was amazing. The sound and the first breath as Darth Vader was incredible. This movie has the most lightsaber duels, battles of any Star Wars movie, and that's why I like it so much. I think this one, of all of the Star Wars movies, is the one that I watched the most because it came out when I was 15 years old, and I just rewatched it over and over again when it came out on DVD. And this is what got me into making a bunch of lightsaber duels with my friends. And there's a lot going for this movie. The problem is where they took the droids, I hated it. All the droid characters were super annoying, especially R2-D2. He does stuff that R2-D2 shouldn't have done, and the battle droids were neutered. They don't do anything. They just get they get blown up by R2-D2. It just didn't make sense. And again, Count Dooku, the villain of Attack of the Clones, is taken care of in the first 15 minutes of this movie, and then General Grievous is not a great villain either. But again, there's some great stuff in this. I love to see the Jedi fall. It sounds terrible to say, but I like that scene because it's pretty emotional. The music is brilliant. And again, the music in the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan, which is a great lightsaber battle, was amazing. You have Battle of the Heroes, and then again you get a new version of Duel of the Fates, just slightly altered to fit in with Battle of the Heroes. So I like this movie a lot, and you see the rise of the Empire. It was fun.
My number 6 was Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and for all of the reasons you just mentioned. It had a lot of good things going for it, but it also had a lot of bad things that kind of killed the good stuff. So I won't go into too much detail because you kind of basically just said everything I wanted to say. I thought Hayden Christensen did a much better performance in this one than Episode 2. Natalie Portman, she was kind of the same, if not worse, and I just don't think she can play the cutesy wife type pregnant lady. I don't know. It's just she did. I didn't care about her. If I'm completely honest, I'm like, okay, when is she gonna have the baby, and when's he gonna become Darth Vader? That's all I want. But I will say that when I went to go see this in theater the first time, I was on the edge of my seat pretty much the entire time. I remember walking out of the theater having nail marks in my hands because I was like this almost the entire time, just scrunching my fists and like, it's happening, you know, with the Battle of the Heroes. That lightsaber is so dramatic and so well done. I loved it. I don't think it quite, like you said, I don't think it quite connected between old and new Star Wars. But they tried really hard, and I think for what we got, it was pretty good. They fixed a lot of the mistakes that were in Episode 2, and I really liked that. It was much better. Again, though, that squeaky creature, like peacock lizard, not really sure what that was. And but again, it was pretty good, and I think it had, for the most part, a pretty good bad guy. Not my favorite, but you know.
At number 6 for me is the latest installment in the Star Wars franchise, and that is Episode 8, The Last Jedi. For all the reasons Karen said earlier, it was overall disappointing, but like she said, Adam Driver's performance really elevated the movie. I loved Snoke. I was disappointed that he died, but I get it. Seeing it for a second time, I accepted it more. I still disagree wholeheartedly with killing Luke off, especially the way they did. I hate that was just way too Earth of like 2007. So there's a lot in this movie that just doesn't work. Leia flying through space like the Wicked Witch of the West, the Porgs. But there are just some awesome scenes in this movie, like the lightsaber battle with Rey and Kylo Ren working together to fight the Praetorian Guards. That was incredible. Finn and Rose, useless. Poe, useless. But the entire theme of the movie is learning from failure. And that's what I feel like Lucasfilm just did. They should be learning from this failure. But overall, I still really did like this movie. There's just too many disappointments for me to rank it higher. And I don't know. I don't know what else can be said about this movie other than the CGI was incredible, the music was great, the return of Luke was awesome, but not the Luke we wanted. But overall, it definitely deserves its spot in the middle.
So now we're getting into the top 5, and my number 5 is The Force Awakens. I really enjoyed this movie. Going to theater, there was a lot going for it. I really liked the character development of the new characters. The fact that they could do it so quickly and still have some sort of Star Wars persona, I thought was really cool. It was a little, it was enough different that it was fresh, I think, but still true to what Star Wars is. And that's about, you know, the Force and everything, but also not about the Force, because now it's getting into more of the non-Jedi characters. But I really, really liked the overall story and the questions that come up, the new beginnings happening, and again, a lot of the really great, they have another really, really great bad guy, specifically Kylo Ren. Snoke was cool too, but Kylo Ren is really, I really like his character a lot. General Hux, not so much. But I will say that Domhnall Gleeson, he's got a really great yelling voice and a very good sniveling minion type character that also gets stuff done. I thought that was pretty cool. Again, you have to love the fact, I loved how they introduced Han and Chewie. What happens afterward, not so much. But the general introduction or reintroduction of Han and Chewie is like really cool, because you're like, this is the Millennium Falcon, it's so awesome. And then of course with the whole lightsaber thing, Maz Kanata, not so much. I wasn't sure how I felt about her, and I did not like the new cantina scene or music. It just kind of like, why? Why do you have to do that? But overall, I really enjoyed it, and that's why it's in my top 5.
My number 5 is Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. And there are some days where this movie is actually my favorite of the Star Wars movies. But when I really think about it, when it all just sits on my mind, I'm always reminded of the very slow, sluggish start of the Jabba the Hutt palace scene. It's drawn out far too long. And yeah, the Rancor scene is pretty intense. I was never allowed to watch it as a kid. I always had to close my eyes, so my imagination ran wild with hearing all these noises. And then when I saw it, I was like, that wasn't so bad. But then you get to the Sarlacc pit, and then you're finally done with Tatooine. I think it's about half an hour of the movie is dedicated to that, getting Han Solo out of the carbonite and getting him free. And it's very slow. But what follows that is mostly amazing. The Ewoks, they're cute, but as I've grown older, I don't like them as much because how are they able to defeat the stormtroopers? Yes, the stormtroopers are weak and they miss every shot that they take, but come on, they're little teddy bears and with sticks, and that's fine, whatever. I can get past it because that space battle over Endor was incredible. And the confrontation of Luke versus Vader and the Emperor again that was incredible. That was the pinnacle of lightsaber duels at the time until Episode 1 came along. But that was awesome. Seeing the green lightsaber for the first time was, there's just so much going for this movie. And again, I always say it, Wedge Antilles is the unsung hero of the original trilogy. He did so much, and he didn't even get a medal in the first one. So I still would love to see a Wedge Antilles movie, but, but Return of the Jedi definitely earns its spot at number 5.
So coming in at number 4 for me is Return of the Jedi as well. I really like the dueling scene between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, because from Episode 5, it's almost like you're kind of disappointed because Luke's trying really hard, but he's not quite there yet. And this one, he is actually becoming a Master Jedi, and the way they shot this too, with all of the silhouettes and shadows and things that really draw out the lightsaber light, is really, really cool. And I still get chills watching it every time. And the movement of the characters too, with Darth Vader's cape and everything, and the way Luke's feet, like he was trained really well in like the swashbuckling type of sword fighting, which I really like, because you don't see that too much in the newer ones. It's more like an actual lightsaber technique of fighting instead of swords, which is what the original one was based off of, because we didn't have lightsabers, obviously. But that's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. I liked the Ewoks. But one thing I do have to mention that you didn't mention is I'm talking about the unaltered version of Return of the Jedi. So with the addition of the beak and the Sarlacc pit, I just felt like it took a really, really cool creature that digests people over 1,000 years. It's a very slow death. The practicalness of the original one was amazing, and then they completely covered up all of the practicalness with that beak that comes up, and anatomically it doesn't make any sense to me. But in addition to that, it just didn't, with the noise it made it sound like a baby, like it was, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. And then the addition of some of the other characters and additions of the filler scenes and the wipes and everything, I didn't like that. And let's not forget about the ending when they changed the Force ghosts of the original Darth Vader character, who is the adult Darth Vader who is older, into Hayden Christensen version, was not cool. And I know a lot of people were very upset about that, and I don't know why they changed it. I don't understand the logic behind it. I don't know if they were just like, yeah, that's cool, we'll just tie it into the old ones because we know we didn't do a very good job of it, so let's just throw him in there. I just didn't like it. No. Because if they did that, they should have changed Obi-Wan instead of Alec Guinness. They should have changed it to the younger Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, and that would have made me even more upset. But I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, I really did like this movie. I think it was very well done, especially considering it being the third installment of a series that they weren't sure was going to go anywhere. Yeah. I really was impressed with how they worked it all out and tied it into the other two. So
my number 4 is Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And this movie had so much riding on it. There was so much pressure to get it right. And for the most part, I think they did get it right. Yes, they borrowed way too many elements from A New Hope, but in a good way. And I'm not that upset about it. I was at first, and I was like, hey, that's from A New Hope. You can't take that. And after a while, I'm like, you know what? That's fine. We're reinvigorating the franchise. And, it's a new company behind it, pretty much. Disney owns it now. And we just want to bring it back to life because the prequels almost killed it. But, yeah, there's a lot going for this movie, obviously, with Kylo Ren. The new character of Rey, who I still hope is not a nobody. Snoke being a mysterious bad guy we don't know anything about, new kind of emperor person. I was disappointed with the Rathtar scene that follows the amazing introduction of Han Solo. Harrison Ford looking more lively than he has in years being in that role. It was sad that he died in the movie, but it played out very well, and I still hold tight to that theory that he turned on the lightsaber to spare his son from falling completely to the dark side, but that was never confirmed or denied in The Last Jedi, but we'll wait and see for Episode 9.
So at this point in the show, we're going to tag team it because our number 3 is exactly the same.
And a lot of you might disagree with this. I know quite a few of you will probably disagree with this because a lot of people see this as the best Star Wars movie, and I respectfully disagree. And that movie is
Empire Strikes Back.
Episode 5. Mm-hmm. It's arguably one of the greatest sequels ever made because it does take the characters into a new direction. I don't think it's better than the original, but it does improve in some aspects, but kind of goes down in others.
I think they really took their time to go from the first one that they didn't think was going to go so well into making it even better. And I think that slingshot rocketed it into really popular. Now, I'm not sure about history, if that's actually true or not.
Right.
But, because I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
Don't know. But I really like this one. And I like how this one, there's a lot of different types of settings with Hoth Planet and more spacey type things, and then Dagobah. I really liked how you really start to see Luke turn from a whiny farm boy into somebody who's been toughened by being in the military and fighting these battles and having training. You don't see the whininess as much. And I think this is why I'm so disappointed with Luke in the newest one, because his character does so much development within the episode 4, 5, and 6, and then you're just like, okay, he's back to the whiny Luke who's gonna be on his own and all of that.
Yeah.
But I do like all of the other characters too. Han Solo is really cool, Leia is really cool, even C-3PO is okay in some of it. I mean, I still like R2-D2 better, obviously.
Yeah.
C-3PO is one of those annoying characters that just is kind of a thorn in your side throughout the entire series.
Yeah. I think the best aspect of this movie, though, is Darth Vader. Because, yes, in A New Hope, he was shown to be cool. He only force choked a guy for a little bit. But in this one, he's killing people left and right. His own men. And, like, he force chokes them through, like, Skype, pretty much. And that's awesome. And he's like, you failed me for the last time. And that, like, all that stuff. All of Darth Vader is awesome in this movie.
He is so, to the point, ruthless,
Yeah.
merciless, just very much, he's just so cool.
Yeah.
Like, cool, calm, collected, ruthless is one of the best types of bad guys ever.
Yeah. And I really do like the asteroid scene with the Millennium Falcon being chased by the TIE fighters. That was an incredible scene, them hiding in the cave. All that was great. The music is fantastic. I love that song in the asteroids field. My biggest gripe with this movie is not knowing how much time passes through the movie. And the training is, while a lot of people, you might even say that it was really great, it was awesome to see Yoda teaching somebody, that's nostalgia talking, I think. Because when I watched the movie, especially as a kid, I hated those scenes. I wanted to fast forward through those scenes with Yoda because they were boring to me. I still don't, I mean, I can appreciate them, but they're just okay. They exist. And I really liked Hoth. That was awesome. With the AT-ATs and the snow speeders. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was so great. But yeah, there's a lot going on this movie. Obviously, the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's father was huge.
Twist.
But like I said in our review of that movie, I can't remember a time that I didn't already know that that was a thing. Mm-hmm. And I wish that I could.
I also really like the twist where you get to know an older character, Lando Calrissian, in Cloud City, and you're like, oh wow, yay, they have a friend and an ally. And then the twist, like, oh my gosh, he's on the side of Vader. And the fact that he's still kind of a good guy, I like that they attempted that. Because that doesn't always work, and it worked in this movie. And just the fact that Cloud City is a really cool place. It's just it's different from like a Tatooine boring sand pit. It's clouds.
Yeah.
You can be happy in the clouds. Princess Leia's costumes were a little annoying in it. But you start to see the development of her and Han's relationship a little bit. And I did not like... I did like the fact that C-3PO was blown to smithereens.
Yeah.
But I didn't like his
definitely
character
liked
after that. So this might come as a bit of a surprise, but my number 2 is actually A New Hope. I really liked it. It's one of my favorites. I enjoy watching it every time. It's kind of a go-to staple movie in our house where we can't find anything else to watch. Let's watch Star Wars, the first one. It's great. Not episode 1. Episode 4.
4.
A New Hope.
IV.
Yeah, and I just like it because it's fun. It's a fun movie where it's completely new type of story in space because it's not like Star Trek. Star Trek is very much just kind of a military base on a spaceship, and you don't really see too much space, but there's alien races and they're just kind of exploring and doing things.
Yeah, it's a science expedition.
I love Star Trek, no disrespect,
Yeah.
but with Star Wars, it takes it to a whole different type of universe that's just really original and fresh and new, and I love it so much. I can't even think of what to talk about because there's so much. I love Luke Skywalker, besides the fact that he's whiny, but it's still, you can tell he's good at what he does. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, his uncle would not be needing him around. And the fact that he's adventurous and let's go have a look at these bantha tracks and all this other stuff. I love Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. His character is really, really good. I love R2-D2, who's like that snide little robot who is very integral to the story. I don't know.
In every Star Wars movie, R2-D2 is the hero.
Yes, he's the hero in every movie. I also love the cantina scene where they're searching for somebody in the introduction of Han Solo. You just are immediately attracted to him, whether you're male or female. You're just like, he is such a cool guy, and Chewbacca is really awesome. Then going into the space when you see the Death Star and you're like, oh my gosh, it's the size of a planet. And then having them blow up a planet, Alderaan, which is so sad. But it's great. And Darth Vader is awesome. I just love this movie. Mm-hmm. I love it.
My number 2 is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I so love this movie so much. The thing about this movie and why I think The Last Jedi did not do so well is this one took nostalgia and just cranked it all the way up. It was like solely based on nostalgia. This movie is unnecessary when you really think about it. It's about how rebel spies stole the Death Star plans. Like, we know how it ends. They succeed in getting the plans to the rebellion, and then the rebellion blows up the Death Star. But it was so interesting to see the different take on it. Like, these were real characters that meant something important to the rebellion. They were the hope of the rebellion. Hope is a little too heavy-handed in the movie, but it was just awesome seeing the X-Wings and the Y-Wings attack that station over Scarif. That was so cool. And seeing the rebellion kind of at its height. They had a lot of ships attacking the Scarif base. This was long before the Battle of Endor, so we get different kinds of ships, different admiral. It's not Akbar. It was just great to see all that stuff and to see the really gritty side of the rebellion. That's what I really liked about it, is seeing all that and seeing that Cassian was willing to just like kill people to keep the rebellion alive. That was just awesome to me. And we can't forget to talk about K2SO, because he was awesome. Alan Tudyk was incredible. And I'm sure Karen will talk about that or more soon. But the best scene. Sorry, I want to talk about it right quick. Was the Darth Vader hallway scene. Oh man, that was just incredible. I didn't expect it. I wanted it, obviously, but during the movie I'm like, okay, I can live without a lightsaber in this movie. And then when I heard Darth Vader's breath in that hallway, and the music just stops and all you hear is the alarm and the Darth Vader breath, I was like, this is really happening. Oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome. And it's like Darth Vader just always starts going crazy on these guys and doing stuff that we had never seen him really do in that epic of a sense. That was just so awesome to see. And Rogue One is sometimes my favorite Star Wars movie, but today it's number 2.
So that leads us right into my favorite Star Wars movie. My number 1 is Rogue One. And I think because I just loved every single piece of this movie. Like, I have really struggled to find something I didn't like about it. Because, for one, you have the original bad guy, Darth Vader, who has this epic moment like you're talking about, who just makes you just go, yes, this is awesome. But then you have the new bad guy, Director Krennic, who is, again, one of those villains that can get things done. And you go into this movie knowing that the spies are going to succeed and that he's going to fail, but they still did it so well. And I love the fact that he really does get stuff done, but he still has a human side to him that just comes out in little peaks here and there. Like when you can tell he hesitates a little bit with knowing that their daughter was on the planet with them. And you can just see it just a little bit in the performance of Ben Mendelsohn as him. It just is really cool. I think they did an awesome job with casting. I thought about this for a long time afterward. Like, they could not have picked better people to play the characters that they introduced in this. I think it's awesome. I love Cassian. I think he was a great choice. K2SO was awesome play. I think they were trying to redeem C-3PO a little bit in it.
In a more battle sense.
Yes, and you're just like, yes. And then you feel sad because they all die. But I loved the balls it took for them to do that, because it was so good, and you knew it was going to happen, but you weren't sure if they were actually going to do it, which I thought that's hard to do, to surprise someone with that kind of stuff. Yeah. And the way they all died was just, it was really, really cool. I also really liked Tarut and Baze, even though, some parts of him I'm like, really, are they doing this? But he played it so well and was so into it without being overly excited about being in a Star Wars film that, like, it fit, and it was so great. And I liked all of the ins and outs of problem solving that they had to do throughout the entire plot of the movie, because that's what made it really good, because you already know the beginning, where they need to steal the plans, and you know the end, that they succeed. But what happens in the middle, I was so impressed with the story development of it, because they could have taken it so many places, and I loved where they took it, and just the ins and outs of all of the plot and the character development, and the fact that you actually care about all of them is huge. Plus, to make a new facet of somebody who is technically on the dark side, with Jyn Erso's father, who is designing the Death Star, he is somehow covertly a good guy in the back. Like, that is so cool. And you don't get a lot of him, but what you do get is amazing. And I loved that.
And him being played by Mads Mikkelsen.
Of course. Because he's just really great. I think, again, the casting was awesome. Yeah. And I still just get so excited about this movie. It's just, I love it.
And my number one, my all-time favorite Star Wars movie is the original, and that is Star Wars, Episode 4, A New Hope. And before making this list several months ago, I might have seen people who choose Episode 4, A New Hope as just being like, hey, it's the original, that means it's the best, and just purely off of nostalgia. But after rewatching it again and again, it's so fun. And yeah, it's groundbreaking for the time, but what this movie does is it throws you into this world, and you just have to accept what's going on. Yeah, the droids are the main focus of the beginning of the movie, but Darth Vader as a villain is an awesome villain. You're introduced to Luke Skywalker. It's hard not to view this movie and the characters in the grand scheme of things with Episode 5 and 6 and 1, 2, and 3 and 7 and 8. But that being aside, it's still such a fun movie with all these new characters that you're introduced to and all the special effects that you're treated to, and the Death Star attack was incredible. As far as I know, George Lucas studied World War II footage and turned that into a space battle. How awesome is that? And everything about that scene, again, Wedge Antilles, unsung hero of the original trilogy, doesn't get a medal, but Han Solo does. And Chewie doesn't either. But it was still just an incredible movie. I loved almost every second of it. And of course, there's always something to nitpick about these movies, but I honestly can't think of one right now. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Star Wars A New Hope is my all-time favorite Star Wars movie.
So we also want to mention that although this list is put into video and you can kind of see it how you will, it'll probably change
Yeah,
as
tomorrow.
we watch more of them and what type of mood we're in, which happens with all. That's what I love about Star Wars, is that you can just love and hate them all if you want to, like, but they're still all really good. And
it's built a community of people that just they're connected by their love of Star Wars. And it's just such an amazing franchise, and
the amazing life it's had over the last 40
Yeah.
years, 50 years almost, is just really, really cool. So we love Star Wars. It is such a huge part of our family, growing family.
growing family.
So we really want to know what you guys think. What did you like about each of them? Do you have a ranking list? Can you even come up with a ranking list? Because I had a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Trying to pick and choose which ones were the best and which ones were the least.
It's like trying to pick who your favorite kid is.
Yeah.
Can't do that. But we did.
So we're excited about sparking the conversation with you. We really want to know what you guys think about each of these movies, what you like about them, what you don't like about them, how you might rank them. It's a lot more difficult than you think. It took me a long, long time to be able to rank them. I went back and forth and switched the orders and things and really tried to dig into each of these to see which one was the best. And it's going to change, because it does. But for now, this is my list and your list.
It changed while recording this video, in fact.
Yes.
Speaking of, if you like this video, be sure to give it a big ol' thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, be sure to hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button so you can be notified of when we upload new content. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.